Technology is technology. I'm very sorry about that. Technology is technology. It decided not to work with us. So I would like to start this by saying, hey, everybody, my name is Zach with Community Pay It Forward, Community Dare to Care, which is soon to be the Come Together Compass, and Packed podcasting channels. Sorry, I don't know where I got lost. But welcome to the 2026 Mission for Healthy Heroes.
It's time to rise. Every heartbeat tells a story. A silent rhythm, strong and true. But silence helps one hear the call. Your voice can break down every wall. You're not alone in the fight. We're standing beside you, shining light. Never shut up, silence helps no one. Raise your voice, lift another until the battle's won. We stand together, stronger than before. Heroes rise when we speak out loud forevermore. Every word's a beacon, shining bright and true, for all the world to see what we can do. Never shut up, speak out loud. We stand together, together.
Okay, I'm very sorry again. Technology is technology. It does what it wants to do, and I am not smart enough to tell it, no, you're not going to do that. It looks at me and tells me, yes, yes, I am. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I guess that's the way it is. Everybody, my name is Zach with Community Pay It Forward, Community Dare to Care, and Packed Podcasting. I would like to remind everybody that if you take and you like any of the Packed Podcasting or Things Network, subscribe to the channels. Make sure that you're subscribed, like, share, or and comment. You need to at least share it and comment on it, or whatever you do. But every time that you do that, every time that you share the show, which you can do once every segment, once every segment. So like once every 3 hours, you will be entered to win tonight a 1 hour tarot reading from our friend Lynn Sobolski. Lynn is going to be on at the 10 o'clock Eastern hour for free readings. So come and join her tonight. You can have a little bit of fun. You get to meet her, meet who she is, and then you get a couple free readings. You know, you can ask her to tell you about yourself or tell you about someone else. And then when that happens, you get to have some fun, and just make sure that you like the program. First and foremost, like the program. Second off, subscribe to whatever channel you're on. We need your help by subscribing to our channels. Okay. All of us are trying to get it to where people, where our message is out there more, and you can help us by making sure that you shared it with people, that you've subscribed to what we're doing. So please make sure that you've liked, shared, and then comment. Okay. And once you comment, we know that that you're serious about helping us out, and you will be in the running for a 1 hour tarot session with our friend Len Sobolski. So one of Lynn's friends, Lynn introduced me to this lady, this great lady. We had a great conversation. Then my computer got very, very sick and died on me. And so then I had to retape this conversation. This is Aviva Chansky Gutman. I appreciate her. I thank her for doing this. And keep your eyes open because we're going to be doing a lot more with her.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Zach Clayton, thank you for joining us for Mission for Healthy Heroes. And I am here with a really, really, really good friend, somebody that a couple people talk about all the time. The great Mr. Z talks about Aviva all the time. So he loves her to death. And then we've also got our great friend, Lynn Sobolski, who's going to be joining us later tonight, giving free readings right here at 10 p.m. So you want to make sure that you turn in and get a free reading just by commenting. And by the way, if you share this video, this program, if you share this with your circle and then comment, make any comment, done, or ask a question, whatever you do, you are in the running for some of the prizes that people have donated, including a 1 hour reading from Len Sobolski. So, but Aviva, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Zach. If maybe you want to clarify about if they ask me a question, because I am being recorded, they can have the answer as soon as
Yeah,
I get the question.
right. And yeah, that is true. This one is being recorded, but if you do have a question, first off, the best thing to do is make an appointment with Aviva. But
Mhm.
if you would just like to say, hey, you know what, can you ask Aviva this question? I will gladly ask her and get back to you with the answer. But yes, this one here is being recorded, so we're not live right now, but I'll guarantee you I'm live. I'm probably still sitting in the same seat. So,
That's right.
so Aviva, you have a very, very specific yet a lot of parts in what you do. Can you please explain to us exactly what you do?
Well, if I were to give it an overarching umbrella of what most of my work involves, it has to do with energy. And energy is something that's usually invisible, but we have within our whole mind-body system, mind-body soul system, energetic experiences that go on. And what I help with is when there's an energetic blockage of some type, whether that be related to a memory, a trauma, or a relationship issue, behavioral issue that's repetitive. The frozen aspect of energy is characteristic of all the types of ways I help people. So I am an energy psychology practitioner, a relationship therapist, certified in Imago relationship therapy, and also certified in emotional freedom technique, which is called tapping in many different schools of thought. It's called tapping, but it's called emotional freedom techniques, and I am certified in that.
Tapping is something that you use something like it would almost be like uh it's pressure points, right?
It's similar to if anybody has had acupuncture. It's
That's what I
based
was
on
looking for. Yeah.
Eastern medicine. Basically, you tap on meridian points, which is what an acupuncturist does with the small needles they insert throughout a person's skin surface. They're accessing the meridian points, which are the energy centers of the body. And in tapping, we do the same type of thing with our fingertips. We don't use needles, and it's completely compatible with internet work, virtual work, so that you don't have to be in the room with someone to help them learn how to tap or to help tap with them as a coach or therapist in their sessions with you. So it's based on Eastern medicine, where the theory is that the reason we need to tap on those meridians is usually because of a blocked aspect of our energy, which can relate again to a traumatic memory, a style of behavior we're not very uh, happy with that we'd like to change, and habits we'd like to change, feelings we don't understand why we have them. It's all related to blocked energy and how to have it be more flowing.
Maybe we'll get to the questions that I sent you. I don't know. At this rate, we might not. But let me ask you something about what you just said. Blocked memories. How often can blocked memories be the root cause of problems today?
Well, in terms of trauma, which a lot of the
Yeah.
audience that's watching today, what happens is when we have a trauma is defined as an incident, an aspect of something that when it happened to us, when we were involved in it, aware of it at the time, it was so overwhelming and we did not have the capacity or skill sets to handle it in that moment. What our system will do energetically is put it aside as a frozen aspect of energy. So what that means in terms of a flashback, for instance, from war, what will happen is that it may have been too much to take in, so it's been put aside in our system. It may be that we can't remember it accurately at all. It's repressed at times, although a lot of the times with post-traumatic stress disorder, which a lot of people in the veterans and military fields experience regarding trauma, it's that it comes back as an emotional state. It comes back as a state of overwhelm. And that's usually triggered by something similar happening, something reminding them of it. And what's happening then is that the emotions they felt in that moment that they couldn't process, whether it's recently, years ago, decades ago, what happens is all the emotions start to come up as though that trigger is happening in the moment. So that's frozen. It hasn't been dealt with. It hasn't been handled or managed. So an emotional freedom technique, I'm able to help people gently approach it and gently have it show itself in layers. And the reason I say gentle is because that's the most important part of something that's traumatic, is that it's done in a very gentle, sequential way so that it's not suddenly the same intensity as it was before. It can be, and that's why we go for some help, and I can help with that. But to get it to not be that activating anytime something similar happens, that's what energy psychology work is about in a nutshell. You can't put it in a nutshell, but if I
Oh
had
yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah. But are there any other ways that our listeners today can integrate EFT to support stress reduction and emotional resilience?
Well, if I teach EFT to people, what happens is when they become more comfortable with it, more natural at it, at their own pace in their own lives as a practice for themselves, they're able to what's called downregulate their nervous system. So if they're in the moment feeling activated, fear, usually activation means you're feeling the nervous system aspects of fight, flight, or freeze. And fight is you want to fight, flight is you want to run, freeze is that you play dead. Our nervous system does that when it's overwhelmed. So if you feel that coming on and you've learned tapping for yourself, self-care tapping, you're able to use those skills to down-regulate your nervous system independently. But usually issues are much more involved than in the moment, just waking up feeling that way. There's clinical EFT, which I practice, which helps people with the issues piece by piece, step by step, so that no longer does it have that strength. You're taking away the parts holding it up.
Okay. What are some of the other the ways that people can identify and shift limiting beliefs that may be affecting their well-being or performance?
Well, first it is to identify that they feel stuck. Again, about frozen
Okay.
energy,
Yeah.
stuck. The stuckness of some type of belief. For instance, somebody might say to themselves or to someone close to them, I just keep having this feeling that I don't deserve it, or I won't be able to achieve it, or it will never happen for me. A limiting belief, something that's just saying something's not possible. That's basically, if you have to translate it to its common denominator, a limiting belief is saying, I don't think it will happen. I don't think it deserves to happen. I can't imagine it happening. So in clinical EFT and other methods of going through the process of deconstructing that, you're able to understand why that belief exists and start working with the parts that are holding up the background memories and experiences that are holding up that limiting belief.
Okay. Um, you have, can you explain to us trauma informed approach?
A trauma-informed approach, which EFT is partly
Yeah.
one of those, this whole category of therapies that are like that, called that. What it basically is that through the therapy itself, you're approaching the aspect that the situation or problem someone's coming to you for and about has to do with a traumatic issue. So what you're doing is approaching it as gently as possible. And I keep emphasizing gently because really with trauma, that's the only way you can really help someone, is that they feel the trust and calmness and ability to be vulnerable with you so that they can start exploring what this is, because trauma is usually overwhelming. And then sometimes it involves a lot of shame and embarrassment. And a person to themselves doesn't want to see what it's about. So a trauma-informed therapy and therapist is, the therapist themselves is usually someone who can approach it with non-judgmental attitudes, safety, and have a good rapport with the individual. So that's a trauma-informed personality as a therapist. And then the modalities, there are several out there, but the one that I practice is EFT. And it's basically, again, the gradual sequential examination and examining of things, but little by little. So maybe you've seen this image of or the tip of the iceberg phrase. The tip of the iceberg is what we see every day in our lives, just a little
Hmm.
tiny bit. Underneath the surface, there's so much to that iceberg. So trauma-informed therapy is really gently going to the lower levels of the iceberg underwater, but in a gentle way so that the person experiencing the trauma feels safe enough to explore what that's all about, because safety is not what they felt at the time of the trauma. There's two types of trauma: huge trauma, big T traumas. Big T traumas are like earthquakes, 9/11, even COVID in its own way, but that was long lasting. But small T traumas are ones that are like just about your upbringing. Maybe there was a lot of negativity or shaming and things that made someone have a little bit of a constant message about something. That's usually what limiting beliefs come from, is this message over time from people important to them about them not being worthy, not capable, not deserving, and they take it in and they keep it as their pervasive belief. But huge T traumas, excuse my tripping on the T's, but war, trauma, gunshots, explosions, those are huge T, big T traumas. So both can be managed and handled and addressed with trauma-informed work.
We are focusing a lot the last 4 years, and what we're doing today. We focus a lot on making sure that we are able to listen to our heroes, and we can, listen first, talk second. But Aviva, when do we, as somebody who doesn't have any training in trauma informed approaches or any of these other programs, when do we need to start pulling back? What do we need to start watching and making sure that, oh, I'm getting over my head here, let's kind of back this up and let's get a hold of somebody who can handle this a little bit better? What are some of the things that we need to watch out for?
Well, there's so many things that relate to that question. I would say in general, one problem is that a lot of the institutions, organizations that are saying they will help veterans, it's hard to approach them because they're very complicated systems that take a lot of patience for your appointment to come up. Then a referral if you're referred out. I understand the whole system of, for instance, the VA, not intentionally, I'm sure, but budget-wise and employee-wise about who's available to help the veterans. There's not enough of a ratio that's very helpful to a veteran. So a veteran already starts off usually knowing that the system is so overwhelming, they may not even approach it for help. So it's very common with people who have had trauma in every area of life to lean on something else that will help them. So a lot of people lean on substances. They lean on alcohol and
Yeah.
drugs. They may lean on behavior like gambling, something else that's an ism. We call them the isms, where it keeps their energy distracted. So that often is not what the person themselves is aware of as being a way that they're handling something. The people around them that care about them are more aware of they're having an issue. They're starting to drink too much. They're starting to take medication. They're trying to tune out, or they're tuning out and they don't seem to be themselves, or they're not themselves that I'm used to or remember them being. So very often the people around someone with a lot of trauma are the first people to notice and experience and maybe try to talk to the person or intervene. Uh, so it's very hard for the person themselves if they're just trying to take care of it and they don't have the tools sometimes for themselves. Look where they have ahead of them. They have, if there is a system like the VA, they are like, oh, it's just too hard to get involved in that. The appointments are so far in the future. I'm not sure I even want to go through that hassle. So there's their own, it's a reality too. If there's a system that doesn't give you a lot of access, you're not going to be able to go to it and say, I'm going to just do this. And so you need to have a support system around you of people that care about you, or an employer that notices something, that starts to say your performance is affected by something. Could you go try to figure out what that's all about? So I would say the hardest thing is the self-awareness, because you're already traumatized. So to be self-aware and determined to go for help that you don't even know if you can access or what it is It's very hard. So that's why it's great that you're doing this type of work, Zach, because you're letting people know the different ways that they can get help or start to ask questions. So when they start asking questions, other people can refer to other people, like, oh, I know this person that does this. I know this person that does that. I know Aviva who does EFT. So
Yeah.
that's the way, is that the conversation gets started.
Well, and that's the reason why I strongly believe that we should never shut up, because I want people to know that Aviva's out there. I want people to know that, you know what, it is frustrating. As a civilian, it's frustrating. I'm waiting 4 months. I'm sorry, I was going to say 6 months. I'm waiting for 4 months for a very, very painful neck just to be
Mm,
seen to decide what we're going to do with it.
hmm
So, and I'm not involved in the VA. It's just that's kind of the way the medical system is now. And yes, in the VA, we've got limited doctors, we've got limited appointments, we've got all these limitations that really, I think a lot of times it puts that I'm not important enough for them to get me in. And
hmm
we need to make sure that we're telling people out there, no, there are other programs that, you can try, try these, see if it works for you until you get in and be seen with your doctor. But there's more than one way to heal.
hmm
There's only one way for you to heal, but there's many things that you can try to find that healing, and a lot of things that we can put together to initiate the beginning of the healing. So, um, and I think with what you're doing, I think it's a beautiful place to, start seeing yourself and start learning how to control some of the anxiety and things that you may experience. So, what are
Well, I
some of
want
the,
to add something, Zach, here
yeah,
about two
please.
parts that come to mind. One is the importance of community and family and loved ones.
Hmm.
We live in a society that, first of all, a lot of people are very far apart geographically, so they're not that aware of the daily life of their loved one at times. However, with technology, people can do more checking in on each other than they ever been able to do before. They can check in by a virtual call to just see how the person's looking and sounding and how they're moving. I mean, you can tell a lot by the body language of somebody if they're having a difficult time. Um, so the fact that the informal things that used to be part of our society all the time, family support, community support, that it's so hard to access that too, that makes it even harder. So I'd say not just to the veterans or those suffering with PTSD and other traumas, that the people around them, the people that love them and care about them, be more aware of them and take care of them by watching out for them. Because again, the hardest thing I've heard over and over again is I didn't know where to look for help. I didn't know that I could get help. I tried to get help at that organization. However, the waiting list is 4 to 6 months. In that time, I wasn't able to get a prescription for something I may have needed, no matter what the prescription was for, whether it's for nerves, anxiety, depression, or even medical issues. I do know that it can be a big lag, insurance issues. So the value of community and family and loved ones, it sort of says, I give it back to you as well today. Like I give it back to family and loved ones to care about someone and notice differences in them. Because while they have to wait for something, the only thing that will help them is to know they're loved and accepted. And that's very important too. So I just thought I'd add that because it is important.
Well, and that's a beautiful point, because look, let's be honest here. You're in New York, I'm in Colorado. This was
Hmm
not possible, years ago. This wasn't. Yeah, it was possible for a telephone call, but we're actually having a face-to-face conversation now.
hmm
This is something that everyone can take and pick up their phone, and instead of hitting the phone icon, they hit the camera icon, and you can talk to people face to face. It's so much more personal. And I think I think what you said is a very, very strong statement, that we don't have that excuse anymore that, they're too far away. I couldn't reach out. We can reach out to everybody, at any time. So I
And if the
really think,
person's feeling about themselves is that I don't deserve or can't get help, they're living in that framework in their mind because that's all they've been able to get reinforcement for as a truth. It's not a truth in reality. objectively, but it's their subjective truth. So they're believing there's nothing out there for me. I can't get what I need. And that's why they often will go to something else to self-medicate. Self-medicating is the alcohol use or the substance abuse use or distractions that just keep them from being present with themselves emotionally, which of course people will do if they have no other source of relief. It's human nature not to want to constantly be in a state of pain and grief and discomfort and fear, which is all part of what PTSD is about. So community has a responsibility. I'm just saying
Yeah,
that too.
there is no doubt, and in my own experience, there is, pain and injury, and there is nothing that is more defeating at times than dealing with that pain on your mental state.
Mm.
You just there and you're like, well, I just can't get people to care, so I just give up, I'll go on ahead and I'll just take your drugs that give me to get me by. And
Hmm.
and that turns into something, very dangerous, very dangerous. So, what specific tools or practices will people learn when they come to you about the tapping, about any of these programs? What are some of the specific tools that you're going to teach them, or will
Oh,
they need?
the best and basic and most essential thing that happens when you start to do a lot of uh, working on the layers of something that's stuck and traumatic in whatever way you approach it is that you start to learn more ability to be resilient in terms of bouncing back to have your nervous system be calm. All of these concerns and traumatic feelings people have, overwhelm, fear, PTSD, flashbacks, a lot, that's all about the nervous system because the nervous system is the reactive state. It's also the rest and digest state, the other part. But the part that's reactive is reacting to as though in the moment the same thing is happening. That's the basic way to say it. So in EFT, one can learn how to get their nervous system to downregulate back to a baseline of calm. When you have a baseline of calm, even though over time you'll be even more calm or be more of a better baseline each time you work on yourself with EFT, what it does is it allows the problem solving part of the mind to come forward and say, well, here's an approach. It's just internal awareness. You'll start to have an awareness. Oh, I could look at it that way. That's one way I could handle it. Oh, that wasn't so serious, meaning a perspective, not that an incident wasn't serious, but the way you looked at it might be that you were looking at it in a very harsh, punitive way to yourself. So, because there's a lot of the language to yourself, I'm to blame for it. It's my fault. The fact that I can't get over it is my fault. There's something wrong with me. In EFT, you can get the nervous system to actually isolate that there was an incident, you're reacting to it. However, that doesn't mean that you're incapable, there's something wrong with you. You have tools, here's a perspective. It allows a distance from the memory and the reaction. And that's all about nervous system regulation, down regulating to a state of calm. When we are calm, doesn't mean we're asleep. It means we're more aware of problems, solving solutions, insights. And sometimes it's amazing what people will discover after you do rounds of tapping. So each time you explore an aspect of a problem, you do a round of tapping or two, and then you'll say, what are you noticing? And the person will say, "Ah, I just realized I was doing that to myself, or I just realized that there was that helper person in the background, and I, I noticed they tried to help me." There'll be all these insights that are like just a little at a time, and all that helps down regulate that state of panic, fight, flight, freeze, and it starts to help you over across your life, not just in that memory that you're working on in the session, but it does sort of reverberate into other parts of your life. So it's a wonderful experience because over time you start to learn how to touch base back down to nervous system regulation very quickly instead of it taking a very long time. But it's a process, it's work, but it's worth the work because you're working on helping yourself feel good in this life.
Yeah, very much so. I've got one more question for you, and then I'm going to ask you just to if you had anything else that you would like to say. My question is very simply this. Aviva, what would you suggest that we make sure that we do today during this mission of Healthy Heroes? What is the one thing that if you being one of my support providers with this program, What is the
Mhm.
one thing you would like to see us do all day long?
Just remind yourselves and each other that it's a community. The most important part, the community strength, the fact that you're not alone, because that's one of the biggest issues
Mhm.
is that we feel we are alone in a circumstance, in
Yes.
a situation. Whoever you've been able to reach, either through this live telecast that you're putting out today, or the fact that it's going to be on recording, I'm sure parts of it on YouTube accessible to people,
Mhm.
is just that no one's alone. So also those who are watching it, who know other people who could use the information that you're giving to people about how to get help and how to reach people for help, um, keep sharing it, share it, because it's just really important. I have known veterans and I have known people that suffer a lot, and it's very insulating. They just feel they're totally alone, even though they're part of a huge community of people experiencing the same things. There's no way that community can speak to each other because they all feel that they're the only person in that circumstance. So that's why sharing, mentioning it, posting it again on their social media, whatever way they can spread the word, it has to be spread and understood by more people. And then somebody else will share it, somebody else will share it. That's the most important thing, is to help people not feel alone and that there is help.
Again, very, very important with what you said and with what we just keep telling people. Look, we need to make sure that we're talking about what we've been through, what we did to get through that, because there are so many, there have been so many things that have happened to so many different people. They're not we're not inventing new things to go through. Things people have been through these things, and people can talk to each other. We just need to make sure that when we speak to someone, we're speaking to the right people. When we look for something, when we look for a program to help us, we need to look that we're make sure that we're looking for the right programs to help us, not just giving up. And that's one of the reasons why everyone should really listen to what other people have to say, because somewhere out there is your path.
Mm.
And that's what we need to make sure. Aviva, I'd like to give you the last word. Is there anything else that you want to make sure we talk on?
I think that's it for now about the energy work of tapping. I also, just to say, help people in their relationships with stuck situations. I'm a relationship therapist, so in that work as an Imago relationship therapist, when we have relationships that aren't quite working or feel like they're stuck and have a lack of flow between partners, I do that work as well, which is very much similar but in a relational context. So that's also available if anyone's interested in inquiring more about that.
You also make sure you also have a program that helps people with listening to each other, and with programs like mirroring and just make sure that you're active listening. Can you
That's
talk
very
about
much
that
a
a little
part,
bit?
yeah, with imago therapy, the foundational aspects of it have to do with the three foundational parts of connecting with someone: mirroring, validating, and empathizing. So it has a context of relationship therapy between partners in any relationship, that's imago, but it also has a context called safe conversations. And I am also trained in that. And that's more of a model for organizations, businesses, human resources, schools. So what you do is help people learn how to actively listen. That's one of the hardest skills when I teach it. People don't realize it's a skill. So when I do teach active listening, I've had people like show sweat on their brow because they're trying to understand. You mean I have to pay attention to every word this person is saying to me? And at first it feels very hard because we're not used to doing it. But that part of fully listening and then mirroring back what you've understood from someone, whether it's one-on-one or in organizations or groups, uh, what happens is when you fully hear and understand and make sure you've understood, it takes away all the, let's say, the waste of misunderstanding. And misunderstanding is what happens between most people most of the time. They assume they understand the other person, they assume it, they let their mind spin. If they said this, they must mean that. They don't clarify, did you mean this or did you mean that? Or could you explain it more to me about how I haven't understood you? So those are the things I teach for active listening. And that helps a lot too, because if someone's coming for help, such as the other questions we've had about if someone needs help, how can they get it? They may be expressing that they need help, but the person hearing that request hasn't understood them. So that's very important because they may have been brave enough or strong enough in that moment to say, I'm really suffering and struggling. Can you help me? And they may be told, and a lot of people are told because the person listening or hearing, I wouldn't say listening, hearing only hears, uh-oh, that's too much for me to handle. I'm just going to tell them to forget about it or get over it or go talk to someone else about it. Where there, the person's opportunity to be vulnerable and ask for help has already been shut off. And that is another layer of why people don't access what they need or can't or try to. And it's a whole cycle of needing more connection and clarity that I help with that too. So
And I think that's a very beautiful way to end this, in remembering that you can hear somebody if you're talking to them with the cell phone in your hand, if you're checking the football scores, but you can't listen to them with that cell phone in the hand. So you got to make sure that you're truly participating in active listening. If somebody's coming to you with a problem, make sure that you're focused on them and what they are saying. And remember, they are saying it. You don't need to always put your input in. Okay.
but that's what the validation and empathy parts of the three aspects are, is that mirroring, validating, and empathizing. Validating is to offer someone you make sense. And the reason you make sense is when people are told that, when I first teach them that, very often they'll say, but I don't agree with her or I don't agree with him. Why should I say that makes sense? The issue is not that you have to agree or you have to say that's fine or right or judge it. The concern is that they're letting you know something, and all you need to let them know is that makes sense for you. I understand in your experience
Yeah.
that makes sense. And that in itself is a healing aspect of conversations if people have them that way. And the empathy is to say, given that you feel that way, I can understand that you're frightened or sad or scared or feel grief. If you let them know you hear their emotional state too, then they feel even more understood and accepted because it's also opening them up to being part of the world. People with trauma often feel they're disconnected. Just, I know that you understand that too, and they all understand that are listening that feel this way. And that's why you're doing this beautiful work, is to help them feel connected. But the feeling of disconnection is so isolating. And you have to go into like the common denominator of what that means. It means if you feel disconnected, you also feel like you're not part of things. And you can also feel at a deeper level, you're ignored and not alive because people are not acting like you're there. So that's why it's so important, all those parts of a safe conversation. And they are welcome to reach me about more because there is more to it.
And how do they reach out to you?
Well, my website is my name, but it's www.avivachansky-gutman.com. And Z made a beautiful website for me. So just a plug for Z and his website development skills. So they can reach me that way, or they can Google me through my name. They can also see my own YouTube channel, which I hope to convert this onto as well. And also through you, they can just ask you, how do I reach Aviva? So
Yep.
that'll make it more simple.
Absolutely. Aviva, I want to thank you for being a champion when it comes to the mission for Healthy Heroes. I want to thank you very much for joining us and making a difference in what we're doing. I appreciate it. You've given extra effort due to our circumstance, and I appreciate it so very
Oh,
much. Thank you.
it's so wonderful to be able to do this. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And just to say, it gave you more information for more questions because we had talked this way before. So it
Yeah,
helped.
absolutely. I'll be honest with you. I think I really I think I got a clearer picture from this second interview. And so, where I wish that I could pull up the first interview, I'm glad that we had a chance to do this again. So,
This reminds me of when people make pancakes. The first one's not as good as the
yeah,
rest.
yeah, we're
This is your
raising
second
kids.
pancake. Okay.
Yeah, we're raising kids. The first one
Oh,
didn't do so
I
well.
wouldn't say
So
that. I have a
the
wonderful
second one,
preset.
I'm going to try a little harder here. So, um,
Oh,
but I,
because we don't, no third one, we never take pictures, so we don't do a third.
yeah,
They're wonderful
yeah,
kids, but you don't take pictures of the poor third one. Sorry, my third one. I have
yeah,
like, I have
yeah.
pictures of
Sorry,
them, don't
Isaac.
worry.
Sorry about that, Isaac. So, but thank you so very much. Please, if you ever have anything going on that you would like to spread the word, join us again on one of the podcasts. I'd love to have you back.
Thank you so much, Zach, and hello to everybody. Have a wonderful time watching this, and I highly endorse watching this for 22 hours, if you can stay
No.
awake.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, if I can stay awake.
If you can stay
So-
awake.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Zach.
veterans. Red represents the root chakra, safety, grounding, and belonging. Before anyone can speak, you must feel safe. This is where healing begins. Today carries fire horse energy, courage, movement, and breaking silence. A day to move forward with strength. Throat chakra, blue bowl, voice. Blue represents throat chakra, the voice of veterans, the voice of those living with tinnitus and hearing loss and invisible wounds. No one should have to stay silent inside their own mind. Even when ears ring, even when words feel difficult, there is still a way to communicate. Through vibration, presence, or simple connection. Even basic sign language can open communication. This is for the white crown chakra, signaling peace. Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. The white crystal bowl represents peace, the place beyond the noise. Even when sound continues, the mind can still rest. We hold in gratitude today for those helping voices be heard. Zach Clayton and Pay It Forward, Kurt and Sue Roscoff, Project Die Hard, the World of Ability Community, and the Disability Channel founded by Jay Stoyan in Toronto. Appreciation to Nonprofit TV, Dr. Anthony Sorelli, and On the Mark TV with Mark Bayan out of Phoenix, sharing it over to 220 networks and worldwide, the acts of kindness messages, ocean care, anti-bullying, climate awareness. Special thanks to Colibri Restaurant for their support, and to Be Willie, our healer, on Instagram and social media, spreading light and healing energy worldwide. We also want to recognize Clean Water Foundation, Leanne McLaughlin, providing fresh drinking water worldwide. Join us on this Saturday, February 22nd, recognizing veteran suicide with Project Die Hard. And again, thank you, Pay It Forward, Zach Clayton, and everybody joining this event, and Santa Papa John. And we want us to invite you to join us in the spirit of kindness next month on World Water Day, March 22nd. We'll be recognized by the United Nations. Anyone can visit the actsofkindnessseries.com to receive copies of the books. All classroom teachers in the United States of America can visit donorschoose.org. And our tagline is, "So go out and play today." Today is a fire horse eclipse. And we are sending the message of peace, love, happiness, and thanks. And especially thank you to our veterans.
I want to thank my friends. Oh my God, the USA just won gold medal. First time since 1980. Congratulations to the USA for winning the gold medal in the Olympics. So wonderful, wonderful day. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Anyway, thank you to Marianne from Waikiki. Thank you to Kurt Roskoff. Thank you to all of those individuals for that video. Whoa, I greatly appreciate it. And now I'm so excited that I'm knocking stuff over. But this is, did Jack Hughes actually score the goal? As a Devils fan, that would be cool. But sorry, I was talking to you. I didn't even see it happen. So I'm pretty excited. Yeah, I'm going to say it was Jack Hughes that scored the goal because they keep showing him and they just showed his parents. So congratulations to New Jersey Devils, Jack Hughes, and the USA men's hockey team, gold medal winners, 2026 men's gold medal. Awesome. Wow. So, but anyway, yeah, thank you to all of them for that wonderful video. That was really pretty cool. I like that. Nice meditation that was easy to listen to, very easy to enjoy. So I appreciate it. I invite you to please take care and go and check out all of what they were talking about, the acts of kindness, National Water Day. Kurt and Sue Roskoff really do a whole hell of a lot for our company. They do a lot for community pay it forward. That whole group, I call them the Kurt crew out of absolute respect. I make fun of that man more than anybody in the world. Well, I don't know. Santa comes pretty damn close, but what is this animal doing? Thank you. But okay, I just saw him on the replay. That looked a little creepy. But anyway, again, thank you to them. And there he is. He wants to make sure that he definitely gets seen. So next up, due to the time constraints, I'm not going to be able to play the 1 hour video yet. The replay of the Come Together Compass, that's going to have to come later on tonight. Right now, I'm going to play an interview with a gentleman that I had no idea that this was even a thing. When we recorded this, I had no idea it was even a thing. So to learn more about this, I was enthralled. So, but here is John Luanis, and talking about incense therapy. Everybody, we're continuing today with Mission for Healthy Heroes. Thank you so very much for joining us. We're moving on along. We've got our 22 hours of trying to find ways that we can help our heroes. And saying that, I want you to remember, you can always be someone's hero. There are always people who are depending on you. So you can be the hero to heroes and to yourself right now with the things that you learned today. So joining us now is John Lanius. How are you doing, my friend?
Zach, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on.
You know, I decided that I wanted to have on some of the people who have all the spare time in the world because they don't really do a whole hell of a lot. And then I wanted to have you because you do a lot. You are a busy individual, and you have a lot of training in something that I personally, when I read what you were doing, it attracted me instantly because I am a huge fan of incense. I mean, you look around my office and there's incense holders. I've got the scented candles. I got the wax burners. I've got the drooping incense, from the bottom release incense. I got those things everywhere in my office.
Yeah.
Can't light any of them because my wife hates it, but hey, it is what it is. But you have a special treatment and a special healing program
Mhm.
that you use surrounding incense.
Yeah. Yeah, well, let me start off by just setting up the whole overview, and then we'll end
Yeah.
up on Shihan Wellness. So, from a media standpoint, I'm the director of strategic operations for Lifetime Media. We're a national footprint media company that works internationally, which is really cool. I mean, award winning, you name it. And so I always have a media through line. That also relates then to my work with the Special Operations Charity Network. With the Special Operations Charity Network, I'm the director of community outreach, where I bring the incense journey to active military, veterans, and first responders, which you kind of alluded to that a minute ago. And then I'm also the founder of Shihan Wellness. So we'll stop here with that background. So since I was 9 years old, I started studying world incense and fragrance traditions. Most of the time, when you think of incense in America, you think of the 1960s, or you think of incense that maybe your wife doesn't like, right? And there is absolute truth to that. But what I have followed since the age of 13 in a formal capacity, meaning that from the ages of 9 to 13, I studied on my own. And then at the ages of 13 to 23, I would take official instruction under a Japanese qualified master of incense. In the incense ceremony, I have learned how to properly and in the most enjoyable way release all natural fragrances that help and support us to immediately regulate our systems. So we return to a place of calm, to a place of just, pure focus. And so where this comes from essentially is the limbic system. And the limbic system is the only system in our body that does not filter our sense of smell. What I mean by that is that all of the other senses in our body, our visual senses, our touch senses, et cetera, it has to filter through something called the thalamus, which is a regulator inside of our brain. Our sense of smell is the only sense that does not filter through that. So, meaning that you get a very, very powerful experience of reality, and it goes right to the rhinencephalon, which is the oldest part of our brain. So I get to work with active military, veterans, and first responders in using fragrance to regulate our system very, very easily.
Is it olfactory, or is it because of relaxation, or is it a little bit of both? Is
It's
it
it's a
I don't know if that's a good question, but it's kind of the way I struggled posing the question in any other way. Is this purely due to olfactory, or does it have to do with the relaxation, or is it both?
Yeah, it's actually both and a whole lot more. So the olfactory system, again, for the most part, gets overlooked, and the reason why it gets overlooked, even though if you're following the work of like UCSD in San Diego and other major health systems, you're beginning to see the emergence of medicines being inhaled. Well, incense, the from the Latin incensum, meaning to burn through, is an ancient medical practice that goes back thousands of years. We know, for example, the written history of incense is 6,000 years old. We know the archaeological evidence of incense is 35,000 years old. That comes from the caves in southern France. Obviously, the use of incense goes back even further. Usually, about 2 minutes after we discovered fire, somebody threw something on there and said, "Oh, this smells good, and I feel different." That's that start to use this as a catalog of ways that we can heal and recenter our body. So specifically to your system, or specifically to your question, is that when we're talking about the olfactory system, is that yes, we are bringing this into our body very quickly, bypassing the thalamus, going right to the rhinencephalon, which is our seat of memories and emotions, etc. The other part of this is what we would refer to as the terpenic profile. So terpenes in nature control the color, taste, and smell of everything in nature. They also tell our immune system what to do. So, for example, if I'm looking at sandalwood, frankincense, let's say lemon peel, for example. Well, all three of those have something called apinine in them. Also, pine resin also has apinine. And so the apinine terpene tells our body what to do in the sense of relaxation, antimicrobial, antibacterial. And so once you start to understand what is the particular makeup of these particular fragrances, then we can begin to use this in a more advanced way to support people to regulate their nervous system and to calm them nearly immediately. For example, I work with a number of former SOF operators, special operation forces individuals. These are people that have been in high stress, high combat situations, and they may have in many ways burned out aspects of their regulation system. So what I'm able to do very quickly with people, and I do this all around the world, either on Zoom or in person, I either use different versions of hypnotic techniques if I'm doing this over Zoom, or if we're in person, I will actually use the fragrances following a document that I give my clients called the Natural Preference Survey document. This document allows me to, in under 5 minutes, know exactly the types of fragrances that you best respond to. So in the example of one of my former soft operators, who literally looks like a living GI Joe doll, he's massive, right? He basically said, the only reason why I'm working with you, John, is because a general told me, to work with you. When you talk about smelling stuff to feel better, that sounds like a bunch of woo woo, and he used a bunch of other expletives that I'm not going to
Yeah,
use right now,
yeah.
right? But by the end of our second session, he was like, I got to tell you right now, he said, John, I've never been more relaxed in my life. And I'm actually able to start to look at some of the things that have been dysregulating me and keeping me from a high quality of life and enjoyment of life. And so for the past 44 years, I have lectured internationally on the subject. I have worked with some of the biggest names in entertainment and music and business, and also people, regular everyday people. It's just the point is this, is that the reason why that I make that juxtaposition between names that you would know and people that you don't know is that we're all going through the human experience, regardless of whether we're famous or not. And so being able to get back to our center, be able to see reality clearly instead of through the filters that we put in, to our own experience that get in the way of our effectiveness. This is the work I do in fragrance. This is the work I do in hypnosis, and this is the work I do not only with Shihan Wellness, but also with the Special Operations Charity Network, and then also Lifetime Media when we need to tell stories about that as we capture the events that we do all around the world.
John, I am a person who, and this actually drives my wife a little nuts about me. I am a person that gets very, very stressed
Mm.
by different smells around me. If something
Mm.
stinks,
Uh-huh.
I get nervous. I guess, well, no, I do get nervous, but I more get irritated and I cannot concentrate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What does that say about me? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
what does that tell people about, or what does that tell you about me?
Yeah. So I'm going to go on kind of a long diatribe, but I promise by
Yeah.
the time that we circle around, it'll make a lot of sense. So part of the reason why that our sense of smell is overlooked is because of something called olfactory habituation. In other words, when you walk into somebody's house that you don't know, you will quote unquote smell their house for about 30 to 40 seconds. Once that those molecules get into your system, they fill up all of your receptors. And therefore, you become nose blind to that particular space. Well, I have a saying in the work that I do that if you that you don't smell your life, and the reason why you don't smell your life is the reason why that you have pushed yourself into situations or into particular ways of being that don't really serve you and what you're doing, because you no longer are perceiving that, right? So throughout our entire life, we have been collecting a scent library that has a deep effect on us. As one dramatic example is that when my father passed away a number of years ago, one of the last things that I did was clean out his closet. And when I got into his closet, there was a shirt there that was still covered in plastic. When I removed the plastic, my father was immediately there again. And so the way that we can use fragrance not only to remember the good things, well, it also impacts us from a negative way. I'm going to be really dramatic here for a moment, but a lot of the veterans that I work with who have spent time in war zones, like, have been in battle, things like the smell of burning hair, the smell of
Mhm.
diesel fuel, the smell of, a whole number of other things really, trigger those particular individuals. And so what I'm doing is I'm using fragrances to counteract that. So back to your original question about what does it say about you when you're getting these smells and they're agitating you, this and that, is that there are probably smells that aren't good for you. And since you are olfactory oriented, then your system views those as a threat. Therefore, you're not going to want to be around that. You're going to want to take yourself out of that. In the same way that for many people, when they walk down the detergent aisle, for example, in the grocery store, the air feels thick and it
Yeah.
like it and it gives you almost an immediate headache. Yeah, there's absolute truth to that. Is that we don't realize how much of the synthetics in our world are actually impacting us, and to give you a range of the kind of fragrances that I work with fragrances that could be pennies, right? But then I also work with the far other end of it, with some of the most expensive incense woods in the world that can range in price from anywhere from $1,500 to $3,500 a gram. But it produces the mental clarity of a 30-minute meditation in a single inhalation. So if I'm working in fragrance hypnosis, for example, I work in 4 sessions where we're using fragrances along with hypnotic techniques to really re-regulate any aspect of your mind. If you don't want to do hypnosis and you only want to experience the fragrance, then I do something called the personal incense journey, which is an hour and a half, where in the first hour, I take you through a number of fragrances based on your responses to the natural preference survey document. But then that last 30 minutes, I leave you in nothing but the experience of that high end, very expensive incense wood that produces the mental clarity of a 30-minute meditation in a single inhalation. The benefit of this is that the people that I work with is that once you know how to get up the mountain, meaning once you have found a place of centeredness, then you can go back to that very, very, very quickly. And so I have the honor of bringing this to our active military, veterans, first responders, and anyone else in the world who wants to experience deep calm and peace. And if you think somehow that this is incongruous with any of your religions that you may follow, all religions and all cultures have had incense. And so why is that? Well, there's always this connotation of the tension being drawn upwards toward the heaven. There's this re-regulation of our mind and our body. If you stop having all of the thoughts that are in your head and they start to slow down, then you get to experience other things that are around you. And so for thousands of years, there have been comments made by all cultures that the more incense you burned, the more enlightened you become, and the more you feel a connection with the divine by whichever name that you call it.
Why? And I mean this with all due respect. Why do the Japanese find these methods before anyone
Mm,
else? Why is it that they have found that if you calm the body, if you calm the mind, you
mm,
clear the mind? Why
yeah.
is it that one of the most beautiful cultures in the world
Mm,
has found out that these these things that are everywhere can be used
mhm.
to slow us and heal us?
Yeah. So let's walk backwards. So Japan was the last culture to receive incense. This happened in 550 AD through the Korean Peninsula. When Buddhism arrived in Japan, there was a saying in one of the sutras that came from Korea, which came from China, which came from India, right? That talked about how you cannot have Buddhism without incense. Now, if you're not Buddhist, don't worry about it. Stay with me. There'll be a high level reveal, I promise, right? But it was this idea that if you want to achieve enlightenment, then you're going to be using fragrance to do that. In other words, there is this concept in the Japanese tradition of incense called monko. And monko means listening to incense. And so you're listening to the incense, which seems a little nonsensical at first, right? But you're listening to the fragrance for what it reveals for you. Well, I was in a talk once and somebody said, well, I'm not Buddhist. I don't want to listen to Buddhist teachings, which is what that means. And I said, that's fine. The Christian tradition has something very similar. Like, what do you mean? I said, well, the Greeks and the Romans used to call Jesus the panther, because what the panther does in nature is that the panther breathes out a sweet breath, and then it attracts, its prey. Now, this is not to compare Jesus and followers to prey, but it's the idea that the sweet breath brings the gospel, brings the good news, right? So you see this across all religions and all cultures, this idea that we're going to use fragrance, something of divine nature, to recenter ourselves. Many of these fragrances, believe it or not, when you're looking at some of the apocryphal information, especially from the Judeo-Christian tradition, is that it is said, for example, that the fragrance of aloe is the scent of the Garden of Eden. For if you look at some of the very, very early stories of Adam and Eve, they were allowed to take garments from the garments from the Garden of Eden that smelled like the Garden of Eden. And so where this would turn into is that if you remember the play or the musical Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat,
Yeah.
well, that's where that comes from. It's the idea that these garments that were taken from the Garden of Eden smell like the divine. And so, I mean, if we had time, we could literally spend the next, 1,000 hours talking about all of these traditions that have gone on over the course of the last 6,000 years of recorded history of humanity. We know that it goes back a lot further than that. But the Japanese were the last to appropriate, to incorporate these particular traditions into their culture. Japan, obviously, from the beginning, has had Shinto. Shinto is the indigenous religion of Japan. And as we start to see Buddhism and Taoism and Confucianism, all these other philosophies move into Japan through China, through Korea, through India, then you see this integration. But I think the most important part, Zach, is this, is that the samurai tradition is about 800 to 950 years old, depending on who you ask. But about 300 years into the samurai tradition, this is where you start to see the development of what's referred to as the do arts. So cha-do, tea ceremony, ka-do, flower arranging, judo. Anytime you see a do at the end of a Japanese word, it usually means a refinement path. And so by the time that we get to the Muromachi period, we are codifying the way of incense. We're codifying the way of using fragrance to regulate. So a samurai, and the samurai culture loved incense appreciation, because you go out into battle, you deal with a great deal of stress, a great deal of exertion, and then you come back and you're using these fragrances to recenter yourself. And so by the time that Zen also influences the Japanese culture, you all of a sudden, a couple hundred years before the end of the samurai tradition, you have these samurais that are what's referred to as whole warriors. They're able to go out and do what they need to do, but they're also able to come back and re-regulate themselves. Well, fast forward to the 21st century and the work I do with the Special Operations Charity Network, this is what I do for our active military, our veterans, and our first responders, and everybody else, because sometimes people think that PTSD is just for people that have seen battle, and that's not the case, because running a
No.
business having a family, all that can be just as traumatic. And so the more that you're able to relax yourself, the more that you're able to heal yourself, and the more you're able to get to a point where you are at total and complete integration with who you are. And that's where true and real power emerges in your ability to make a difference with yourself and others.
See, one of the things that we really, really focus on when it comes to this particular event is the heroes of our heroes are their families. And there is
Mhm.
no such thing as the hero suffering PTSD and everybody else is clear,
Yeah.
free and clear of it. PTSD is, for lack of a better term, contagious. When
Hmm.
one suffers it, everyone feels it.
Hmm.
Everyone has to live it. So we never discount anyone in the family. We think that they need as much support and as much treatment as anyone. And so we love what you do. John, what do people do if they would like to try Shihan Wellness, if they would like to connect with you on your charity network? How do
Yeah.
people reach out to you, my friend?
Yeah. So, Zach, first of all, thanks for that. So, if you go to shihan-wellness.com, that's shihan-wellness.com, you can very easily send me a message there. If you are interested in the work of active military veterans and first responders, you can go to specopscharity.com. That's specopscharity.com. I'm also very, very available across all social media. You just search my name, I'll pop up and you can find me. But I have the pleasure of working with people all around the planet. I get to work, over Zoom, for example, for hypnosis. I do it in person. So there's a whole world to explore and to learn about. And I'd be more than happy to share that with anyone who reaches out.
Well, John, I want to make sure that you and I stay in contact because, you know, I'm one of those who could probably sit here for those 1,000 hours, listen to you talk
Yeah.
about incense and the healing of incense and everything because I do. It's something that I've loved it my entire life, and yeah, when I grew up, it was to hide the scent of marijuana. Living with parents from the '60s, but
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
then it grew into something as a teenager and as an adult. I would always use it in my room. It was always lit in my room, in my house, wherever. It was always lit. So, but once again, John, one more time, how do people reach out to you today?
Yeah, so let me say this, Zach. When you talk about marijuana and when you were trying to cover that smell, here's what's funny. Marijuana, believe it or not, is actually one of the first incenses.
Oh yeah.
I have numerous academic papers showing that this was burnt on some of the earliest altars of some of the earliest temples around the world. So that's the other thing. From an academic standpoint, this subject never ends, and so happy to
It
share that. But
I am a proponent of if THC is the best for you, do it as long as
Mhm.
as long as you do it correctly,
Mhm.
and I live in Colorado, so if you want to do it for fun, do it for fun. Just be responsible.
Yeah, yeah,
So, but I mean, marijuana has never been something that I have ever had a problem with. So
right,
it's
right.
because I grew up around it. So let's be
Yeah.
honest. I mean, but yeah. So yeah, once again, how do they get a hold of you, John?
Yeah. So here's the so Shihan-wellness.com. That's Shihan-wellness.com. You can see it right up there behind me. There it is. And then you can also go to specopscharity.com, specopscharity.com. And Zach, here's the thing. When you talk about the spectrum between THC and other types of medications or meditation or academics, what have you, the way that I language this is that, when people say, oh, you're into incense, you must be into that woo woo stuff, right? Well, woo woo is a veiled insult. It means that it has not been integrated. But if I'm able to show you the power of recentering your mind, if I'm able to show you the power of very quickly regulating in your body so you feel good about seeing the world around you, then I have very quickly taken you from the woo woo to the wow wow. And that's
Yeah.
what and that's what I have been saying for 30 years. So I'd be more than happy to take anybody from the woo to the wow wow.
I love it. I love it, brother. Thank you. Thank you so very much. I think that if we don't allow people to know that it's here, then people don't know they can use it for healing. And
Yeah.
so, you know, where and my wife is a practitioner of crystal healing.
Hmm.
And, you know, we've got hypnosis, we've got all of that, you know, look, it may not work for you.
Hmm.
That doesn't mean it's not going to work for someone. And
Right.
so, you know,
Right.
I mean, I think that woo woo is a little, I'm like you, it's a little insulting. It's a funny word though. But, you know, I don't dare say that around my wife. I'll tell you that. So,
I love it.
but
Well, Zach, I am grateful for the time today and look forward to staying in touch and look forward to giving back to what you're doing as well as people reach out to me.
well, I appreciate it. And once again, we been speaking to John Lanius.
There you go.
And
Lonnius,
look at
there we
this.
go.
Look at this. I almost screw up your first name trying to not screw up the last name. So thank you very much. We will have all of John's information tagged in this episode so you can look for it. You can reach out to him if you got any questions. If you need some help connecting to him, connect to us and we will make that happen. Thank you so much, John. We appreciate it. Thank you for taking part in the mission for Healthy Heroes.
Thank you, Zach. We'll talk soon.
So I just got to show it off. Yes, I am wearing a tie underneath my Jack Hughes New Jersey Devils jersey, gold medal winner. He just won the gold medal for the United States. That's right, gold medal, Mr. Hughes. Uh-huh. Yep, that's it. So had to go and throw it on. But I'm not sure if I'm going to wear it all day or not, but I'm pretty damn excited that it happened. I'm equally as excited to talk to this lady again because it's been a day or two, at least a day or two since I've talked to her. This is Jennifer Deserich from Dignified Dementia. How are you?
I'm well, Zach. Thank you. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. We are in our wow 7.5. So yeah, we're moving along, which is nice, nice. But so how have you been? I know that things are a little challenging for you. I know that you received some pretty bad news recently, which I just my heart I feel for you,
Thank you.
and I wish your mom all the best. So, but tell us a little bit about dignified dementia, will you?
Yeah. So, Dignified Dementia is a web-based nonprofit, and we are out of Denver, Colorado. The website was started because my dad was diagnosed with Lewy body dementia at the end of 2018. And we received his diagnosis, and the doctor didn't give us. I am so, so sorry.
I've got
I'm.
I've got four of them down here that go off on. I'm surprised mine didn't go off on yours.
Oh, yeah, he's a great guard dog, but yeah, and I'm on a different computer, so I apologize.
No,
Come here, settle. Thank you. Um, so we were in this doctor's office, my dad, my mom, and I, and the doctor told us it was probably Lewy body dementia. But the only way we could confirm that was on autopsy, so we'd know when he was dead. And I'm very well versed in the medical field, especially neurodegenerative conditions, and I had never heard of Lewy body dementia. And so my dad tried to ask a couple of questions like, hey, what is Lewy body dementia? And the doctor said it was like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. It's just a different kind of protein buildup in the brain and it affects movement. And he'd be happy to answer more questions in a follow-up appointment. And my dad goes, well, is there any way to help other people like me or other families like ours? And the doctor said, well, again, just make a follow-up appointment. And we left that office without a pamphlet, a website, a resource of any kind, just the three of us walking back down to the car. And so I reassured him. I thought that was a terrific question that my dad asked about helping other people, because that was his nature. And I said, let's figure out how to help you and how this fits into our family. And then I promise I will find a way to help other people like you and other families like ours, so they won't have to have an experience like this again. And my mom and I were his permanent in-home caregivers. We were fortunate enough to have a little bit of help. But over that course of time, I developed, just on the advice of his doctors, I developed some resources for him that really helped him stay organized and anchored in the present. We tried to build on positive energy, and it was something that I thought it would just be for him. And his doctors loved it. His speech therapists and occupational therapists loved it. And they encouraged me to get this toolkit we have to other people. And I was still caring for my dad, but I thought, hey, why not? And this is how I can help my dad achieve what he wants to achieve, which is helping other people like him and families like ours. So I started Dignified Dementia, and it is a website where we have a free resource library for everything that you could want given a dementia diagnosis. We're still building it, but it is completely free. You don't have to subscribe to our website. You don't have to pay any money. It's just resources that I personally have used in helping my own family and myself, but also in helping other families going through it. And we also, fortunately, have raised enough money since I saw you last to where we are able to offer this cognitive wellness kit, this toolkit that I developed for my dad, completely free. So anybody who wants it can go online to the website and download it. They can download the whole thing. They can download one piece. And it's much more user-friendly than it was. And the other thing that we are doing is we offer a caregiver talk, and we are going to reopen our support group here soon. And that would be for anyone with a neurodegenerative condition or TBI, anyone living with a diagnosis like that, and their caregivers, or the people who love them. And we feel that that's a really good way to give back and support. And then our most exciting development has happened. Again, we were able to raise enough funds where we gave a $5,000 gift to the University of Colorado Health Neurology and Palliative Care Division. And together with them, we are using that money to develop a speakership series, which is something I had no idea I could make happen, especially this early in the game. We've only been open for 3 years. And this series is going to have international and national experts on neurodegenerative conditions, and we'll have a series of lectures where it'll be giving people the basics of dementia, what to look for, promoting overall awareness and trying to help destigmatize it. And the second series will be specifically for caregivers put on by caregivers. And then the third is to educate hospital and first responders, all kinds of staff, from doctors to MAs to everything. Because if anyone listening, or if you, Zach, have ever had a rough experience with a healthcare provider, it's jarring. But for the most part, for someone with dementia, a difficult visit could mean a lot of different things, and they would likely not want to go back to that doctor again, and that's a barrier. So I've spoken with a lot of healthcare professionals, and they've asked for the education. They want to know how they can make a visit more successful if they have a patient who comes in with dementia. They want to know how to listen to them, how to talk to them, and how to keep them calm. And so those are our latest and greatest exciting developments. And what else can I tell you?
Well, those are all I mean, that's all fantastic. I love it. I am beyond proud of you for doing. I know that you got pretty beat up by illness for a while.
Yeah.
I think just a personal thought, but I think that the stress of everything was uh, got to you quite a bit, and it kind of broke you down a little bit. So I'm glad to see that you're rebounding from that. But tell me this, Jennifer, what what was your mom and your first thought when you had to take on the duty of taking care of your father, which is fine, that's fine, but you didn't know anything about the affliction. You knew nothing about it. They didn't there was like you said, there was no, hey, this is what you need to do. There was none of that stuff. It was just like, you know, it's basically like, here's this. I don't know what the hell it is. I don't know what you do with it. I don't know if you'll wear it or walk on it, but there you go. How difficult was that?
Well, I will be honest with you. My mom and I had vastly different expectations and understandings of what was going to happen. I knew a little bit about just dementia overall. And as soon as I got home from his doctor's appointment, I went into research mode. But my dad's wishes were to stay in his home until he passed, if that was at all possible. And I was bound and determined that as a family, we could do this. And I would look at him and I'm like, he's my dad. I would do anything for him.
Mhm.
I would happily care for him and do what he needs to be done. He took care of me. Every time I had to go to the emergency room as a child, he took me. And um, I felt like I could handle it. And for the most part, I did. I'm not perfect by any means. I would get frustrated, but the experience for my mom at first was a lot harder She is an amazing person, but she was not a natural born nurturer. And she didn't know exactly what was going to happen. She didn't really even want to know what was going to happen. And she didn't like taking care of people. It was just not her thing. And so she pushed against it quite a bit. She didn't believe that all of the things that my dad was doing were just the disease. She thought that he was doing some of the more obstinate things or apathetic things on purpose, even though in the stage of his disease, he lacked the capacity, the brain capacity to be that sophisticated in manipulating. It just wasn't biologically possible. And she was very angry, and just angry at the disease, angry at him, angry at God, anything that you could be angry against. And for her, anger feels more comfortable than other emotions. So she gets afraid, she gets angry. And my dad and I, we always had a little bit of a different connection. We both were a little bit more calm, less, right there in your face. And we would stop and think of a thoughtful answer and how our words might come across. And this is part of the reason I was able to do so much for him. But my poor mom just, she didn't believe my dad's providers when they said, you need to practice self-care. You need to take breaks. And she just got more and more angry. And in February of 2020, all of our lives were, all of our lives globally were turned upside down with the pandemic. But I had to have a spinal surgery that was, I'd been putting off since I'd been caring for him. And that's very common. A lot of caregivers do put off their own health needs to care for their loved one. And if I hadn't gotten the surgery when I got it, I could have lost my ability to walk. So it was very, very important. But I had this surgery, and my mom actually had a nervous breakdown, and she spent some time in very bravely in a mental health facility. And when she came home, she was ready to do the work. And I found her a therapist that would come to our house. And she really worked everything that they taught her and inpatient mental health and at home. And that is really when my relationship with her and our ability to be true teammates in taking care of my dad started to change and get better. I mean, get a lot better. But then after she started getting stronger that way, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. So I had one patient, or I had my dad living with Louie, and my mom with cancer. And again, commonly caregivers do this. It was recommended that she do chemo and radiation and surgery to remove the cancer. And she opted for just the surgery and radiation because she knew she wouldn't be able to help take care of my dad. And meanwhile, I was doing more and more every day that I could do just to help improve my dad's quality of life and slow his decline, keep him calm and engaged. And he remained that way until about 2 weeks before he passed, at which point he went nonverbal. And at that point in time, my mom and I had made the decision that he was on hospice, and we couldn't do it anymore. We had to move her out of their bedroom. And so she slept on a couch for 4 years because my dad was having violent hallucinations, and we were worried that she could get hurt.
Yeah.
And so the whole journey is it'll chew you up and spit you out many different times. And we were very lucky because my mom and I were able to be a team. So even if we couldn't get along with each other, we could at least relieve the other one to go take a shower, or something like that. And I felt very blessed to be able to care for my dad like this. I woke up almost every day knowing that I was in the exact right place, doing the exact thing I was meant to do. And my mom still doesn't feel that way, but she does feel very grateful that we were able to care for him at home. But that would be her counsel, is you don't know what you're getting into. Even if you think you do, you just don't until it happens, until you're going through it. And that's when you need the resources the most. You need a friendly voice at the end of a phone. You need things that will truly help you, that you don't have to spend any more money on. And that's really what I aim to do with dignified dementia, because I want caregivers, especially caregivers like my mom, to have the help that they need, so what happened to her doesn't happen to them. And yeah, it was daunting. And at the end, he was on hospice. We wanted to put him in inpatient hospice. And that's when we found out we couldn't qualify for inpatient. One, because there was something with his long-term care insurance. There was an issue there. And two, there just wasn't enough space. We couldn't find one that we could reasonably drive to every day. And so that 2 weeks was probably the hardest part of the journey, because we were staying up all night. He was in a hospital bed in his room. I was administering his meds when the hospice nurse wasn't there. And yeah, he couldn't talk, but you could see the fear in his face. And that was just gut-wrenching. And he did eventually pass, and he died on February 6th of 2024. And even then, as a caregiver, you're not quite done yet, or the journey's not done with you. it's a relief that your loved one is no longer suffering. But you feel relieved about that, and then you feel guilty that you feel relieved
Yeah.
that someone you love has died. And then my mom and I started the process of learning that we had no idea how much caregiving put on us emotionally and physically. So in the past 2 years, we've been individually and together working on grief and trying to figure out our own way again, just being responsible for our own care. But we were thrown for a loop at the beginning of December. My mom broke her right shoulder and tore the rotator cuff, and she already had a torn rotator cuff on the left side. They put her in a sling, a very immobilizing sling, and I went from not being a caregiver to being 100% back into caregiving. And I mean, it was a different experience. Fortunately, she got the sling off in 2 months, but I had to be her arms and her hands for 2 months. And she was a little bit different than my dad to take care of. She was not as trusting, not as positive. And so we had to figure out our way through that. And yeah, I respect the journey so much, and I respect the generation of baby boomers especially, and I want to do everything I can to help. And with dignified dementia, it was December of 2024. The phone rang, the dignified dementia phone rang on Christmas night at like 1:30 in the morning. And I figured if somebody needed to call somebody about resources or anything at 1:30 on Christmas night, they needed a voice at the end of that phone. And I picked up and I talked to that person for 2.5 hours, gave them several resources, and was just a listener and a voice, because part of our mission at Dignified Dementia is to let people know they're not alone, because the journey becomes very isolating, and reaching out for help is hard. And yeah, we just want to be there to be whatever we can.
Jennifer, what do we need to do to make sure that caregivers take care of themselves? Because as you've mentioned, that's the last thing that happens. They don't want to take care of themselves because they're too busy taking care of someone else. And it's the old adage, you got to put your oxygen mask on you first. And
Absolutely.
I am one that I hate hearing that. I hate hearing that. I hate,
Me
if
too.
I'm out to help somebody, the last thing in the world I want to hear is, well, you got to be selfish. You got to take care of yourself.
That's
No, 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 no,
that's
no.
exactly how I feel. Yes.
But we can't do that. We've got to take care of ourselves. What do we need to do to make sure that people are understanding? You can't help people. Look, as you've experienced, as it hurt your mom's health, you can't help people if you're messed up.
Right. That's a really good question. And thank you for sharing that. That's how you feel too, because it's very common. all caregivers are told. I mean, it's practically crammed down your throat. Self-care, self-care, self-care. And I used to say back sometimes, well, I would love to take care of myself, but you tell me where the time portal is located that I can walk into for 3 hours a day to myself, or even 1 hour.
Yeah.
And so I got pretty creative with my dad, doing things that were helpful for him, but also self-care for us. And I'm actually giving a talk about that at a conference in April. We're calling it the Shared Sensory Experience. And what we used to do for my dad, his doctor was very, very well versed in Parkinson's disease, and he tried to get a music therapy grant, and he explained to me what music therapy was. So I started incorporating that into my dad's daily routine. So at noon, we would listen to songs from his college days or high school days, and we would talk or not talk, or he would just sing. And there, there was a lot of positivity in that, and music is universal. And seeing the person you're caring for relax and enjoy something and smile, it's, for me, it was self-care. And then there are things, just that you can incorporate in your caregiving so that you're not scrambling to try and find something else. If the person you are taking care of can move, put on a YouTube video of Tai Chi or something like that, and get into some movement. We used to do visualization meditations every morning after he watched The Price is Right, because that was something he had to do. And then, there were times when he would get really agitated, or if my mom and I were agitated, we'd put on a video of baby animals, with soothing music and things like that. And that is really great. That, to me, is the best way you're going to be able to incorporate regular self-care, is if you're doing it with the person you're caring for or alongside of them. However, there needs to be more than just that. And I just recently gave a talk to 3rd and 4th year medical students on the topic of caregiving, and I was given the objective to tell them by the end of my talk what the one thing we caregivers wish doctors knew. And I said, oh, one thing, I tell these doctors what that one thing is, and then no one else has problems with caregiving ever. I said, that's not a hard topic. But I think we have to have educated providers, and we have to have paper resources, especially for like the baby boomer generation. For my generation, Gen X, there are apps that you can use in your daily caregiving that can help with reminders to take a breath, or, do something for yourself. Make sure that you eat, even.
Yeah.
But we need the support of the medical community, and we need better access to respite care. because I don't know if you've ever tried to get care for a loved one or yourself or, anything like that. But there are plenty of companies out there that are happy to take your money, and come in and give care. And many of them are incredibly good. The two caregivers we had changed all of our lives. They improved all of our lives. But a lot of people, especially with Medicare, and know if they don't have long-term care insurance policies, it gets very expensive very fast. And just because healthcare should not be tied to money. We should be able to get the care we need when we need it. And that barrier of getting through red tape with insurance or getting the right referral, that all falls on the caregiver, and it's more work to do. And we need help on many levels. We need help in the legislature. We need help on the ground. So I really appreciate you asking that question, because caregivers need support.
Yeah. And Jennifer, I would like to let's stay in contact. I'd like to get a hold of you next week, and we can have a longer conversation. There's so much that we
Absolutely.
can do with this. We do have to close this down. We've got our next segment about ready to come on up, but I do want to thank you. And how do people get a hold of you?
You can reach out to me at j.deserich, DESSERICH, at dignifydementia.org, or you can call us at 720-663-7635. And I would encourage you to check out our website, which is www.dignifydementia.org. And if you'd like to make a donation, you can certainly do so through the website. We're here to help.
Well, that sounds great. And what we will do is we will tag all that information, and we'll make sure that people know about it, and they come and visit. Jennifer, thank you so very much again to your mom and to yourself. Please take care of yourself.
Thank you.
And let's make sure that we continue to stay in touch, and let's get this going, and we'll go from there. So, but
Okay.
thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And thank you for what you're doing. It's amazing what you're putting on, and good luck to you and your next participant.
I appreciate it. I actually get a little bit of a break. Somebody else is going to host the next hour. So,
Wow. All right. So go do some self-care.
well, yeah, I'm still going to be, but I'm just not hosting this next hour. So,
Okay.
all right. Well, thank you very much, Jennifer.
Thank you.
So, thank you to Jennifer Deserich. I cannot tell you. Please go to dignifydementia.org and check it out. She's been through a lot. She has been through a lot, and she's still got a long way to go. As she said, her mom was just diagnosed with breast cancer, so please keep them in your thoughts. Coming up next, folks, we have the Things crew coming on, and they're going to take over for the next hour. I will be joining in with them after I go and walk the numbness off my legs. So I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy in just 1 second. But please remember, we are here to learn more about the Come Together Compass.
Hey you, it's time to rise. Every heartbeat tells a speak out loud forevermore. Everyone's a beacon, shining bright and true, for all the world to see what we can do. Never shut up, speak out loud. We stand together, together.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the next segment of the Mission for Healthy Heroes 2026. My name is Jeremy York. With me is Nick Muley. He is occasional host and frequent guest of the 13th Dimension. And like Zach said, we are going to give him a break so that he can get some feelings back into his legs. Meanwhile, Nick, who is still muted,
continues on even for this event.
it never fails.
It never does. Oh, and
Here
just
we
in
go.
time of who we're going to have on. Hi, Uncle Ralph.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Good, good.
Hi, Ralph. Jeremy, nice to meet you.
Pardon?
I am Jeremy. Nice to meet you.
Oh, nice to meet you too.
So, for this segment, ladies and gentlemen, we will be talking to Ralph Henson, who is actually Nick's uncle.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Correct.
I had no choice in the matter, so whatever.
So, now Nick had just told me about you yesterday. He said that you had served in the military. I'm trying to find the information he had given me. It's in there somewhere.
Yeah,
So
I was in the Navy. I am what they consider a Vietnam era veteran,
okay,
meaning that I was active duty during the Vietnam War, but I never made it over to Vietnam, which is a good thing, really. And that I served aboard aircraft carriers. My first ship was the Franklin Delano Roosevelt, CVA 42. And the 42 means the keel was laid in 1942. So the Roosevelt did some service during World War II, but most of its active duty was during the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. By the time I was aboard the ship, it had a new nickname. It was called the Rusty Rosie. It basically had some issues with rust and that. Eventually, the ship was scrapped because for one thing, it was a 600 psi steam powered ship. It wasn't big enough for the new jets. At the time I was in, the Tomcats were just coming online. Um, the the planes that the Roosevelt had were the F-4 Phantoms, and those were used extensively in the Vietnam War. I used to have some pictures uh, of flight deck activities, but I can't seem to find them right now on that. But my first ship, it was about 1,000 feet long, um, and I was a machinist mate, and during some of my duties, I was also a mess deck master at arms. I was in charge of the scullery crew, which is just kind of boring, but they actually rotate the seamen through mess deck duties and that. Um, so I was in charge of about 7 people in the scullery, and that's where they took all the trays and the silverware and the glasses, and they ran them the through the big dishwashers and that. After that, I was assigned to the catapult steam repair shack. So I was working with a couple other people, and we had a berthing area that was right below the flight deck. So I was on the port side. Yeah, I was on the port side, and during the morning when we were out at sea steaming and that, they always lined up the jets and everything alongside the flight deck, and they would warm up the engines and all this stuff. So when we got up to go down to the mess deck for breakfast, we'd have to go out of our area. But before we stood up, we had to look above, and if we saw air that was shimmering, we basically crab walked down the catwalk, because if we stood up, we'd get hit with the exhaust of a jet plane, and it would burn our hair and basically blow us off the side, and that 40-foot fall wouldn't have been good for us. So that was kind of like life aboard the ship. Um, I was able to wear a green shirt, which signified I was with the catapult crew, so I was allowed on the flight deck during flight ops. During flight ops, if you don't have the right colored shirt, you are not allowed on the deck, because frankly, it's a freakingly dangerous place when they are positioning the jets and everything. They've got the fuel handlers, they've got the catapult crew. Um, if you've seen any videos, it is a choreographed dance. They move the planes into position, they get them hooked up to the catapult chocks, they raise the blast doors behind the jets, and there's a guy that is underneath the jet, and he makes sure everything is attached right, and then he signals to the catapult crew, basically saying, "Go." And then he ducks down real low, because when he says go, the catapult crew pushes the button, and the jet shoots off the front of the ship. So he is there, and he's got he's got this F4 roaring overhead, and they do it all the time, constantly, and of course after a while they change the people out in that, um, and it's very loud. Of course, you've got all the jets going there. Uh, Night ops are really dangerous, because if you've ever been at sea, there's no lights. Usually we were in blacked out conditions in that, except for the exhaust of the jets. And you really can't see what you're doing that much.
Wow.
Uh,
That makes it even much more dangerous.
oh, yeah.
I found a picture I did. So there was several ships named Roosevelt. So let me know if I got the correct one.
Okay,
Let me.
that looks like it. Yep.
That's the.
Now, okay, that's an old. Yeah, yeah, that's it.
Yeah. This is the one that I found. It says USS Franklin D. Roosevelt, CVB, CVA, CV-42.
Yep, that's my first ship.
Awesome.
Uh,
Glad you got
and
it on the first try.
yeah, and you can see how they line up the jets. My berthing area was basically to the left of that first jet down below, and that's why we had to like always always look up when we were steaming and that. And um, you can see an F4 Phantom back there. You'll see like there's like a little tractor that's pulling the jet. That was something that was affectionately known as a man eater.
Right here.
Yeah, basically it had a big intake underneath it, and if you were unfortunate enough to be walking too close to it when the engine was revving up, it would suck you right in, and there was no hope for you.
Wow.
So yeah,
Wrong.
so I don't mean to get real gory, but yeah, I mean
Oh,
unless you know what you're doing, you don't want to be on the flight deck at
Right.
the time
Right.
and
so
that. But
what does the 42 mean?
well, the 42 was the year that the ship's keel was laid down
Okay.
and that. So when you see the carriers, it'll be like you know USS Nimitz 71 or something like that. That's when it was. That's when the build first started on the ship
Okay.
and that.
Okay.
Um, so of course, once you shoot the jets off, you eventually have to recover them, and that was interesting. You'd see the pilots coming in, and most of them are pretty good. But we always like to watch the guys, and occasionally there'd be a slight miss up. You know, they the the pilots are trained to catch the third hook or the third cable, and sometimes they missed and they caught another one, or maybe they would bounce a bit more than what they're supposed to in that. Um, I do remember we had an unfortunate accident. We lost an F4 Phantom and its crew. The plane came down, and it was a perfect landing. The tail hook caught the third cable. The pilot, as he was trained, when he feels that tug that he's been caught, he shuts the engines down. At the time he shut it down, the cable snapped. And he kept going. He tried to recover, but he didn't have enough airspeed, and they went over the starboard side right at the angled deck. And there was nothing. I was actually in the stern of the ship at the time it happened. I did see all the videos, but when the plane went over like that, all the alarms went off. That plane overboard, man overboard, and they went to like a full stop with the engines and that, and I could barely keep my feet. The back end of the stern was bouncing so much from just trying to get the ship stopped. They turned it around, but on an aircraft carrier, the turning radius of an aircraft carrier is roughly about 1 mile in diameter.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
they immediately launched the copters and the rescue crews, but by the time the stern of the ship passed the plane, all you could see was just the tail, just the top of the tail of the plane, and it was already 6 feet under and sinking. And that was not a good day.
Oh, I'm sure not.
So, you know, but that was it. My second ship I caught in Bremerton, Washington. It was in dry dock. It was the Kitty Hawk, CVA 63, and that. And if you think an aircraft carrier is big sitting out on the water, when you see it in dry dock, you are like amazed that man can build something that big. It is just huge. Um, and of course, they had all four screws off the ship at the time, and they were on the dry dock, and the screws themselves are, um, 20, 30 feet in diameter, all bronze and that. And there's four of them there. And again, you're looking at those and you're sitting there going, how did they make something that big? You just wonder what processes were done and that. But when I was aboard the Kitty Hawk, I was in the parts room basically. So occasionally the Master Chief would say, Hanson, I need you to go. We need to go shopping for supplies. So here's a check. Go out and pick up the stuff. Here's a list of everything we need. So he'd hand me this check for about $30,000 or $40,000, and that, and I'd go over to the naval store, and I'd have a list, and me and my friend we'd start shopping for things like coveralls, shoes, tools, various other parts and things and that, and we'd get it all done in that, and we'd come back, and we actually wound up doing that at least once a week, and that. So yeah, it was very different. You go into this big old warehouse, and you just start shopping for all the stuff that the engineering department and everybody else needed, and that. So we would come in, we'd have like three or four shopping carts full of just shoes, and then we'd have another four or five filled with just coveralls and uniforms and that. And then of course socket sets, various other little pieces and that. Um, so that was different. Um,
You basically had to have like a box truck to be able to haul all that back.
Yeah, we did have. We actually had a flatbed truck, and I wasn't supposed to drive it because I had to take a driving test, and the guy that was teaching it was an older gentleman, and it was a manual shift truck, which I had no problem with, but he said you need to learn how to double clutch, and I'm going okay. So I tried practicing double clutch and that, but he said, no, you're just failing it. So no, I'm not going to give you the license to this. But I drove the damn thing anyway. It um, it's a manual shift, and I'm going. I don't care about double clutching. I'm just going to get it through the gears and go.
The funniest thing about double clutching is, and I drove truck for a living, and the funniest thing about double clutching is you usually end up driving trucks without even using the clutch. You
Yeah,
just fly shift, so you
yeah,
don't even touch the clutch to begin with. So
yeah,
it's like they go through and they teach you how to do that double clutch. Yet
yeah,
you're just sitting there, you know, quick shifting, and it's like, what the hell did I even learn that for?
yeah. I actually started to call it, instead of double clutching, I called it double clutzing
Yeah.
because
Oh yeah.
yeah, I just couldn't see the sense of it, because basically double clutching is you're trying to sync you're trying to sync the revolutions of the transmission and the engine together, and that. And if you get it down good, it's it's fine. But most of the time, push the clutch in all the way, shift gears, go. I really didn't need to learn double clutching,
Yeah, yeah.
but
Um, did
Meet Zach Clayton.
yeah,
Yeah, this is Zach Hose. Well,
He's actually the one who's heading up this 22-hour marathon here, and we were supposed to be giving him a break, but he decided to join us anyway.
yeah. Well, I was on the thing saying I was going to be here, so and I'll be taking off a little early so I can start the next segment that starts at
yeah,
10
yeah.
o'clock. So, but let me ask you about the planes. Did the planes were they going into the conflict, or were they in a different area? My
well,
dad was also a Vietnam era. We were in Berlin.
yeah. My first ship I caught in the Mediterranean. So the ships, the planes, they're all from different squadrons and that. I'm trying to remember. I think we had the black. No, I think we had the Aces squadron and that. So they always paint the squadron symbols on the tails of the plane. I'm pretty sure that um, a, a lot of the pilots they they were aboard they'd been rotated back to the Rosie, but I think a lot of them had actually done combat tours and that. Uh, when
So,
I
how close were you to Vietnam when all of this was happening?
I never made it over to the Far East. My first tour of duty was in the Mediterranean, uh, and that I caught my ship in Torremolinos, Spain, and that. And then shortly after that, we rotated back home. It was kind it was kind of funny. We basically filled up all the ship's store. We got all kinds, gallons and gallons of fresh milk and all that, right? Well, I think someone sold him a bum cow or something because shortly after we passed past the rock of, and we were out in to the open ocean, they were dumping the milk. So for like miles and miles, there was a white trail of spoiled milk going out behind us.
Oh,
Oh, jeez.
So yeah, they weren't too happy in that. But
that's a lot of milk.
oh yeah, and that was another thing. We did some underways replenishment where they had to top off the oil tanks, and so we're on the port side of this tanker, and we got the hoses going out, and coming up on the starboard side of the same tanker is is one of our escort destroyers, and my ship, we're just cruising along. You hardly feel any waves or motion in that. The tanker's kind of rocking a bit, but that poor destroyer, they looked like they were riding a bronco. They looked like they were in a rodeo trying to ride a bronco, horse and that. I mean, they were pitching up and down, turning every way, but they got hooked up and got their tanks fueled up and that. So that was that's something you don't see every day, of course,
Right.
and that. But that's about it. It's that was my service. I spent some time at the Philadelphia Naval um, Hospital for like a speech. I used to stutter a lot worse than that, so I spent some time there. Met some good people, toured the site, saw the Liberty Bell, Independence Hall, all that good stuff. While I was in Washington State, we were because the ship was dry docked in Bremerton, Washington, and occasionally I'd walk along the shipyard, and that's where they'd also pull the submarines up to. and you walk by this submarine, you see this big old cigar-like ship sitting on the chocks there, and the entire front end is off, and you're looking at this big old, looks like a radar dish, but that was the actual sonar dome and that. So they have the whole thing off, and you have this big old sonar dome, which basically takes up the entire front end and that. Um, yeah, I mean that was those are sites you don't you just kind of keep in your mind. I have to say the Washington State area was a beautiful area to be in. I would get off ship, after 5 o'clock and that, and I had a favorite spot. I'd take my car down to the spot where you could see off in the distance. You'd see Mount Rainier, and you'd see the white drift of the snow kind of blowing off. You'd see, and we're right in among all the pine trees, just the scent of the pines and that. It was a very nice thing, very pleasant in that. But I don't know. Any questions for me on that?
Yeah. One of the questions I wanted to ask is, as a era veteran, what were some of the things that you were dealing with when it came to like mental issues that maybe someone who was a battle server did not have to deal with? Was there any guilt on your side that you weren't there? Was there anything that you had to go through as a non-combatant that
Not really. At the time I was in, they were winding down from the Vietnam War. I mean, I remember sitting in the engineering office, and on TV, I saw the helicopter on top of the U.S. Uh, embassy, and people trying to scramble up ladders and that, and
yeah,
that was a
yeah,
in that. So like we were winding down. So at that time, everything was tired. The ships were tired. They were, they hadn't had enough overhaul time. We actually had chiefs in there that probably joined at the end of World War II, and the master chiefs and that. Some of those old guys, boy, you did not want to cross them. They were because basically, I'm a master chief. I know I know the Navy, and you're not fitting in. So yeah, they would give you hell. They had, you know, they had, you know, they had, they had some good stories. I heard stories um, how aboard the Kitty Hawk they made a tour out to Vietnam, and for some reason, some junk got too close to the ship. They'd been trying to warn it off and that, and basically it just kept coming and coming and that. And the captain just said, somebody get that person away and that. Well, there was an F4 in the area, and they came down and they just one strap with the 50 calibers, and there was just junk on the water. Nothing left. And that. Oh, that's another thing I want to say. Aboard my first ship, when it came back from Spain, we did a family cruise from Norfolk, Virginia, down to Mayport, Florida, which is where my ship was based. So they had all the family there, and as part of it, we were all up on the flight deck. A lot of people are up on the flight deck, and they said, "Okay, folks, look to the back, and you can just barely see it. You'll see a couple of smudges, and that we've got two F4 Phantoms coming out, and they are at Mach 1.2. So you're going to see some smudges, but keep an eye on it because they're going to get here really fast." And you're watching this smudge, and all of a sudden, you see the speck of an airplane, and then boom, and they basically flew by us slightly above the flight deck level, and you could see the air and you could hear the whistle of the air going over their wings, just a whoosh as they went by, and then the sonic boom hit, and boom! If you weren't ready for it, it would knock you off your feet. So they flew by, then they did a turn, and they made a 50 caliber strafing run. So as the bullets are hitting the water, it looked like fence posts about 30 feet tall zipping across the top of the water. And then they just headed on back to base. And
Wow.
that,
Wow.
yeah, that was really impressive. And that,
Right.
Well, you basically answered one of the questions I was going to ask you, if it was the air that would knock you guys down or the sound of the planes that knocked you guys
it,
down.
it, it, it was the sound in that. I mean, because you weren't expecting it, and 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 that I was at a Paul McCartney concert once, and we were sitting on the side, and there were these big boxes right in front of us, which we didn't know what they were for. But when he went into his song "Live and Let Die," and when he said "die," the boxes blew up right in front of us.
Oh, boy.
It
Jeez.
knocked us flat off of our seats. My sister-in-law, Kate, I looked back. All I could see of her was her legs sticking up in the back, going like this.
Well, Mr. Hanson, I'm going to go on ahead and take my last 30-minute break before my next 6 hour
Okay.
stretch. But thank
Nice
you
meeting
very
you.
much for joining us, joining the show.
Sure.
Jeremy, Nick, and Mr. Hanson, you guys have fun continuing the conversation. And I'll see everybody back here at the top of the hour.
Okay.
All right.
Take care. All righty. Bye. So, you guys got any further questions? Is anybody else joining, or
It'll just be the three of us. There is another question I want to ask you is, have you taken part of the honor flight yet?
no? I have not. No.
Uh,
I
are you are you familiar with it?
I've heard about it, but I don't know. I've never done anything like that. No.
So
I think it'd be kind of cool to do. And that I hear they treat you pretty good. And that
it's an awesome trip. I actually went with my dad 2 years ago because he was considered part of the Korean time frame,
yeah.
and it is a 1 day event, but it's very fast paced. You get there at 5 o'clock in the morning at the airport,
Uh huh.
and you don't come back until about 10:30 that night.
Oh well, that's fine.
Um,
Been there, done that. Things, you know.
and they take you everywhere. You go to the Iwo Jima Memorial. You go to FDR Lincoln Memorial. You go to the
Oh,
Vietnam Wall. You go to the Korean thing where they have all those statues.
yeah.
Um, let's see. We went to the 9/11 Memorial out there at the Pentagon.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I would love to do that. Sign me up.
basically, all you have to do is go to honorflight.org,
Oh
and
yeah. Okay.
it's very, very easy. Click on find a hub you need. What state are you in?
Illinois,
Okay, so let me
Chicago area.
check and see. I'm pretty sure Illinois has a. Let's see. Illinois. What county are you?
DuPage County.
Oh, okay, found it.
While he's looking, Uncle Ralph, my mom just showed up briefly, and she told me to say hi.
Who? Who?
My mom.
Oh, okay. Hi, Mary. Oh, ask her if she saw my latest email about Nancy's timesheets.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I definitely will do that as soon as we get off.
Okay, I found the website you want. I am going to forward that to Nick so
Oh,
that he can forward that to you.
Yeah,
okay.
I'll send it to you through the email again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds good. That's the best way for me.
So basically, what this is, it is a free event for you,
Uh-huh.
but you will have a guardian with you, and that guardian, uh, it really it can be anybody.
Oh, my
Uh,
daughter is a captain in the Illinois National Guard. Of course she's due with her first baby in May, but
oh,
yeah.
okay.
But
Uh,
I could probably find uh I could probably find someone in that's willing to go along.
so what that guardian is, this person is basically responsible for you. So like, if you had any medications or food that you needed to take with you, the guardian would be over that. If
I
you
Yeah,
have a wheelchair, that person
yeah.
pushes you. But the guardian has to pay $400 to go
Oh,
on this thing.
okay. Yeah.
The
I
veteran is free.
I'm 73, but I'm in fairly good shape. I just had a shoulder operation. They kind of did a reverse socket thing on me, but for the most part, I'm independent. I mean, I walk by myself, feed myself, clothe myself. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't have any major restrictions on me and that.
Now that's even better for you.
Yeah, except just what my wife puts on me, but we won't go into that. So
Oh, well, that's typical. That is typical.
anyway, um, I got to get moving on here. Speaking of my wife and that, I don't know if Nick mentioned that, but yeah, we've had some medical issues with her and that, so we have her in a rehab home, trying to get her strength built back up and that. So I and
Okay. Well, good luck with that.
yeah, and I'm not able to drive yet uh, due to my shoulder surgery, which has been really frustrating.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
so,
I can relate. I've had shoulder surgery. My dad had shoulder replacement, so I understand how that is.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and drop off. Uh, Nick, I really enjoyed this. Hope I gave you guys some idea of what it was like aboard ship. A lot of times when we're aboard ship and we're steaming and that, we would do a normal work day, and then um, that was it. Back then, if we wanted to talk to the family and that, we wrote a letter. Yeah.
Right.
Um, we could call once we were in port. You could make a phone call and that. But nowadays, it's entirely different. You got emails, you got Zoom calls aboard ship, all kinds of stuff and that. But back then, yeah, it was. You want to talk? Write a letter. you
It's nice, but at the same time, it's a pain.
Yeah. So anyway, okay.
Uncle Ralph, thank you so much for taking the time for coming
Sure.
on. So
No
really
problem.
appreciate it.
Much. You
No.
really enjoyed the stories.
Take care.
All right, have a good one. Tell Aunt
Bye.
Nancy I said hi.
Bye. All right. Let's see. How do I get out of here? Let's see.
Uh, there should be some. Well, the simple thing is just click on the X at the top.
Yep,
Right
I see it.
there.
Log out.
All right, take care.
Bye now.
All right.
It was quite a
What's that?
story.
Huh?
That was quite a story you told.
It was quite a story. Two gruesome stories there. He's
Yeah,
talking about losing somebody while out there on the ship, so that's got to be traumatic.
it's something you never forget.
No, no, and I knew that the suction would be strong in the engines, but to actually really pull you in, I thought that was just stuff they did in the movies.
Unfortunately, he's obviously proven wrong. That pretty much was real life. That was reality. That could really happen to you.
Yeah, and if you actually witness something like that, that is the stuff of nightmares,
Yeah.
basically.
Especially if it's someone who not only is a member of your crew, but also somebody that you may have developed a close friendship with.
Yep,
So that's even worse.
it would be something like that. You don't get over.
No, no,
Uh,
that when something like that happens, I mean, that sticks with you forever. It never goes away.
he was actually lucky that he came in basically at the tail end of Vietnam, so he didn't get to see any of the ugly stuff.
Yeah, compared to many other veterans who have, he's very, very fortunate.
Yeah. My dad got out of the service right before they started going to Vietnam.
Okay, okay.
So if he was even, I think he said it in like a handful of months. If it was a handful of months later, he would have been shipped out there.
Yeah, and then he would have really been exposed pretty much to the true horrors of what war is all about, especially when it's involving the Vietnam War. It would have that would have been something that would have been an even worse experience, for lack of a better term. But yeah,
It's
yeah.
not just that, but also the whole Agent Orange thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah. The chemicals and whatnot that was being spread. Yeah,
Now he would later be exposed to chemicals at his job, but that's a different story.
yeah. They were
Uh,
probably not as lethal as like Agent Orange was, though.
well, it was for the phone company.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, I guess I should clarify that. But where he was working, he was actually just a couple miles down the road from here, where he was working at the time about 30 years ago. The facility he was working at, I don't know what they were doing. I never really asked him. I don't know what they were doing, but there was a lot of chemicals. I think they were like doing some sort of manufacturing, and he ended up losing his sense of taste and smell
Oh, jeez.
for years. And then when his taste came back about 10 or 15 years later, it was off. So my mom's cooking all of a sudden was tasted bad because his taste buds had changed.
Right, right.
So it would piss my mom off.
No, I'm sure that must have been frustrating for her.
It was frustrating, and I just laughed. I couldn't help it. I just laughed. So I had sent you the link.
Yes.
It is honorflychicago.org. Um, I hadn't looked at it, but it looks like it's pretty straightforward. It has a thing how to apply. Um, very easy. So
Yeah, I already I sent it to him, so he's all set with it.
very good. I let me know when he gets accepted. He'll definitely get accepted. Um, but I do know that they try to prioritize the older veterans um, because, quite frankly, you don't really know how much longer they have.
Right, exactly. And some of them never get to have that chance. In fact, so I didn't even tell you about this, Jeremy, but when they started doing that, what was it like? I think over a decade ago they started doing the honor flights.
Uh,
Because my dad told me that that's when they probably started, like over a decade ago.
let's see, honor flight 2005.
2005. Okay, so I'm not sure why we couldn't have done it sooner, but we could have actually done something like that for my grandfather prior to his passing in 2013. So I'm not I don't remember exactly what my dad said about it, but for some reason whatsoever, he would have had to wait for a few years for whatever reason to, even though he probably was already eligible because my grandfather served during World War II. So I don't know exactly what was really holding them back, but he died pretty much about a year or so. It was either after he was eligible or it was a year before he was eligible. I'm not sure how it works, but unfortunately, my grandfather, he never got to experience the honor flight.
Well, I don't know when the honor flight started in Illinois.
That's probably the other thing too. It probably didn't start yet.
Yeah, because let's see, where did they start? Trying to. It looks like it might have started in Ohio.
Okay.
And then it would just had to spread out over time. I still don't think that every state has it yet.
Right.
Um,
I wouldn't even be surprised if like that even goes to the territories. The territories probably don't even have it either.
um, I'm doubtful on that.
That's what I mean. Yeah, I don't even know if they would have them.
Yeah, they. I'm going to guess no, but I don't know. Let's see. Uh, Hub names A to Z. Okay, here we go. Let's see. All right, Wisconsin, New York, North Carolina. Well, no, that's going to take too long trying to by state and county. Let's see. All right, so we have Alabama, Alaska, America, Samoan,
Okay, one of the territories.
Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware. They actually have one in D.C. There's no point in.
Yeah, because it's directly in DC.
Yeah, I guess really all they would have to do is just meet up and get on the bus.
Yeah.
Florida, Georgia, Guam,
Okay.
Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Vermont, the Virginian Islands,
Okay.
Virginia, Washington, West Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 states and territories, 54 states and territories.
Okay, so even some of the territories are allowed to. So that would be the Guam, U.S. Virgin Islands, and American
Yeah,
Samoa. Besides Puerto Rico and Northern Mariana Islands is not there.
yeah. So Virginia Islands,
Guam and American Samoa.
American Samoa, and DC. So looks like it is available in all 50 states.
Just the only territories that are not part of it, though, looks like was Puerto Rico and Northern Mariana Islands.
And let me see where that one is. Hell, that could actually be part of Hawaii, really.
Oh, okay, okay.
Well, 5 inhabited territories, and then we have 9 uninhabited territories.
Right, yeah. The nine uninhabited ones. There's obviously they're uninhabited. It would just be the 5 territories then.
Still, yeah, still a territory, and then we have 2 claimed: Serenella Bank and Bajo Nuevo Bank.
Yep, yep.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, we are coming up. Oh, we got. I didn't even see. Oh, Pepper S.
Yeah, I was going to say someone just commented on the show. Pepper SMRS said, "My father served in World War II and he was a medic. He earns a Silver Star, which was and is lost. No way of getting another." Oh, that's really sad.
Okay. Okay. I'm guessing it's Mrs. Pepper S. My sister's name is Pepper.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that actually.
Yeah. My oldest sister's name is Pepper, and my dad got her name off of a street sign.
Oh, really?
Into an intersection, it was like Pepper Street and Lynn Street, so he named her Pepper Lynn.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Why for after a name like after a stream? Why am I not surprised?
Yeah, hey, it works.
Yeah. Oh, it definitely does. It definitely does.
So we are actually at the. Thank you, by the way, for joining us. But there's going to be another segment starting here in about 5 minutes. It will not be this particular live. Zach will be starting a new live at 1 o'clock Eastern, depending on what time zone you're in. So this is the end of segment 3 of the Mission for Healthy Heroes 2026. Nick and I will be back in 7 hours for the Supernatural Talk segment of this marathon. We will. It'll be the two of us along with Adrian, and we will be talking for an hour, and then Nick and I will make our exit, and it'll be Adrian, Jan, and Lynn who does tarot reading, and then an hour after that it goes down to Lynn, where she will be doing a full hour of tarot reading. So
And also to add to it too, I wasn't sure what time Zach wanted to do this. In addition, I'm also going to be doing for because I know he told me that there were still a few spots open. I just don't know what time. Of me doing a pre-recorded episode of Nick Files, which I finally, oh my god, that took a lot longer than I expected. And if that wasn't worse enough, again, I finally did something about the storage. And I'm not even joking when I tell you this. I literally had to spend almost the entire night last night getting all the information put on the slideshow. So the only thing I just got to do quickly
was so quiet on us yesterday.
Yeah, because I was so focused on it.
Yeah.
So it is ready to go. It should only as usual. I also wanted to have enough so it could last for the entire hour. But more importantly, too, the only thing I just got to do, which I'm going to do right after we get off here, is I got all the pictures I got to add, and then after a few minutes after I need to catch a breath, I'm going to do the pre-recorded episode then, so it could broadcast sometime probably later tonight.
Oh, you haven't recorded it yet?
I haven't, so that's why my schedule's very tight for today. So I'm going to be doing that in literally like right after I get the pictures will only just take like no more than 5 to 10 minutes at most compared to like when I had to get the information. So I'll be able to do that, and then once I have that ready, I'll be doing the show immediately.
Okay, yeah.
I know I'm cutting it short, but it was a really frustrating experience. So.
In the words of the legendary and wise turtle Michelangelo, clock's ticking, dude.
That's what literally I was telling myself. I mean, I'm just gonna say, like, I mean, I didn't even get that much sleep last night as a result. So, like, I I didn't even care what time it was. Didn't care. I didn't look at the time because I also realized every second counted, and I realized that every time if I did fall asleep or if I even did look at the clock, that literally would have been 3 or 4 seconds I could have saved.
Well, now you care of the time today.
Yes, I do. Just got to
Well,
have the pictures, and we're ready to go.
yeah. Okay. Well, we got to cut because Zach will be starting in 2 minutes. So everybody, for the last 3 hours, thank you so much for joining uh, Zach on this adventure, hanging out and playing along with us. And also thank you to Ralph for taking time out of his busy day to tell us some stories. We really appreciated that. So
Yeah.
everybody out there, be safe. I know here in this area we got dumped on with snow again.
That happened to us too. It's probably
Yeah,
the same system that affected us. You guys got it too.
I was kind of shocked when I woke up this morning. All right, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for the next segment starting in less than 2 minutes. You guys have a wonderful day, and we will see you later tonight.
See you guys.